Hey Percussion pals, my name is Oliver Molina, Chair of the Education Committee of the Percussive Arts Society. Thank you for joining us for today's Fundamental Friday session. Before we start, I would like to thank Chris Wilson and the Fundamentals Subcommittee for putting together this wonderful summer series. Today's presenter is Dr. Brian Nozny, Director of Percussion at the University of South Alabama.
Hi, my name is Brian Nozny, and I'm the Director of Percussion Studies at the University of South Alabama in Mobile, Alabama. Today, what we're going to be talking about for this fundamental section is the grid. Okay, what it is, how it works, the various ways that you can utilize it, and why it's such a powerful tool for us as percussionists in getting better. So, basically what the grid is simply the idea of taking an idea of some kind and putting it through every possible combination that you can. Okay, so let's take a really simple example of this. Let's just take eighth notes, okay, in 4/4 time eighth notes. So every beat is divided into two, a downbeat and an upbeat, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and, right? Now let's imagine that within those we want to take an accent. And we want to put an accent through every possible combination or every possible permutation within a single beat. Okay, so we can basically put the accent in two places, right? You can put the accent on the downbeat. You can put the accent on the upbeat. So you put it on the 1, the 2, the 3, the 4, or whatever. Or you can put it on the and. That's basically it. Okay, so simply that would just sound like this, right? Downbeats first. You've got 1, 2, 3, 4, and 1. Okay? Now, that's basically what the grid is. It's the idea of taking an idea and putting it through all of the paces. Now, typically what we do with the grid is, in addition to doing that, we do it in what we call a 4-2-1. The idea being that we're going to take each possible outcome and we're going to do it 4 times. Then we're going to do each possible outcome 2 times. And then we're going to do each possible outcome a single time. Okay? With some repeats in there. We'll talk about that right now. So what you just heard already was the 4s, if you will, of an eighth note grid. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. Okay? Now what we would do is we would take those 4s, take both of those ideas, the downbeats and then the upbeats, and just split them in half. Okay? 1, 2, 1, 2. Okay? But for the 2s, we then repeat that. Okay? 1, 2, 1, 2, repeat. Okay? And then take the 2s, split those measures in half. So now you basically got downbeat, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, or 1 and 1 and 1, right? But now we take the 1s and we do them 4 times. Okay? The reason for this being that, in essence, if you think about the 4s, then the 2s, and then the 1s, each of those sections still takes up the same amount of time, okay? Which can be really, really beneficial and really useful for us for doing things like ensemble exercises and stuff like that. So that's basically, in essence, what the grid is. So now here's an example of the full, just taking the eighth note grid with accents and with music for you. So this is what that would sound like. Okay, so that's your eighth note grid. You can basically apply this concept to, well, lots of different things. We'll get into that in a little while. But you can apply this to any sort of subdivision of the beat that you want. We've done eighth notes here. You can do triplets, 16th notes, fivelets, sextuplets, whatever you want. So let's go on to another one now. So let's look at a 16th note grid. Okay, and we'll keep it simple. We'll just deal with accents. We want to do a single accent, moving that around all the possible permutations of that. So when I practice this, what I'm really trying to look for, always practicing with a metronome, what I'm trying to listen for when practicing this is the exact placement of that. And I actually pretty much am looking for the idea of a composite rhythm. Okay, so a composite rhythm is if we take two separate rhythms and combine that together, what type of rhythm do they make? So if we're looking at the fours, if you will, of a 16th note accent grid, if my rim here would be my metronome, and then this is me playing over here on the pad, you're going to first start them on the downbeats. Okay, everything should be together, right? Now we want to move that 16th note accent. We want to move the accent over a 16th note. Now that's going to be on the E. So now we're going to get the. Okay, so I'm listening for that rhythm to occur between what I'm playing and the metronome. Okay, then we move it over another 16th note. That's going to be on the offbeat now. Okay, and then finally we move it to the Okay, so that's what I'm trying to listen for as I practice really any sort of accent grid to a degree is what is the composite rhythm that is made, and am I hearing that between myself and the metronome? Okay, so this is a 16th note grid, single with a single accent, moving that through all the possible permutations. So far, all we've really dealt with in this is accents, okay, as being the thing that we kind of vary throughout a given subdivision, right? Where the grid can start to become really powerful is the idea of having an idea of constants and variables of some kind. Okay, so what I mean by that is if we look at, let's say, the 16th note grid that we just heard, the constant would have been the rhythm. We're just using 16th notes, and it would have been the sticking as well. It was all just right, left, right, left, right, left, right, left, just alternating between the right and the left the entire time. Okay, and then the variable was simply the accent. The accent moved from the downbeat to the E to the and to the What you can do though is vary that constant. You can make the constant different things, or you can make the variable different things. So really easy example of this is here is now the 16th note grid that we just heard, only instead of the accent being the variable that we move around, we're just going to move a diddle around now. Okay, so here's that. Okay, so now we've heard 16th note grid with an accent as the variable. We've heard 16th note grid now with a diddle as a variable. Okay. You can start to develop this in more and more different ways. The sky's the limit in a lot of ways with how you can utilize this tool. So another way that we can do it is by taking the constant, if you will. Now I mentioned before constants and variables, and up on the screen right now you'll see a couple of lists there with the ideas of what you could vary within these things. Okay, so right now here's going to be a couple more variations that we can do upon this now by not only varying the variable, but by varying the constant as well. So what you're about to hear now is two more examples of this. You're going to hear, the first one is 16th note grid. And what we're going to do is we're going to take the diddle is our variant. We're going to move the diddle throughout that, but the constant is not just going to be 16th notes. We're going to take an accent as well. We're going to put an accent on the downbeat through the entire thing. Okay? Then from there, so you're going to hear basically okay, so moving that around, moving the diddle around while we keep an accent on the downbeat. And then let's reverse that. So you'll have 16th notes. The first one will be exactly the same. You're going to hear both a diddle and an accent on the downbeat. But now, instead of moving the diddle, we're going to keep the diddle on the downbeat, and we're going to move the accent. So on and so forth. It should be said, you'll hear a metronome through all of the examples. The metronome is at 108. Just nice, easy, moderate tempo so that we can get an understanding of this concept. You push it wherever you want from there in terms of tempo and stuff. But so here's now two examples modifying the constant as well as the variable. So now you've heard some different variations that we can do messing with the constants and the variables. There's another path that we can take with this, which is what I call global variations, right? So taking a certain element and turning it around a little bit that affects the entire exercise, okay? So a very, very simple example of this would be all of the playing examples that you're hearing in this. I'm right-handed. They're all going off my right hand. So a very simple global variation would be do everything off your offhand, do everything off the left hand. Okay, very, very powerful. Really helps you to strengthen that offhand, right? So that's a real simple way of doing things. You could do things where you, instead of starting the 4-2-1, start in a different place. Go backwards. Go 1-2-4 if you want. Go 2-1-4, 2-4-1. Whatever you want to do, get creative with this, right? That's one of the beauties of the grid is how creative you can get with this. This also leads us, that idea of starting in different areas, is this can lead to ensemble exercises. So you and a few friends get together and just pick different areas that you're going to start in. All right, I'm going to play 4-2-1. My friend is going to play 2-1-4. Another friend's going to play 1-2-4. And then see how those things play off of each other. If you're doing accents, how do the accents play off each other? What does that sound like? Is everyone staying together? All of these things, right? So these are really, really powerful to make ensemble exercises. One last variation that we can do that you'll hear an example of now is doing the exercise where we approach the variable backwards. Okay, so let's look at this with just 16th note accent grid. The original one that you heard, well, just start on the downbeats, then move to the accent to the E, the accent to the and, the accent to the Well, let's reverse that then. So let's now start the accents on the then move the accents to the and, then move the accents to the E, then move the accents finally to the downbeat. Okay, so again, just approaching these things backwards. Again, simple variation, but can lead to some really, really interesting and some things and some more stuff for us to practice. So here's that example. Okay, so for all these examples pretty much that we've been doing so far, we've basically been doing, we've done 8th notes and we've done 16th notes. These end up being an even subdivision of the beat, right? Where things can get a little bit dicey and more interesting is when we start to subdivide it into an odd number. So triplets is an easy example of this. And the big where this makes things more difficult and a lot of ways more fun too is the fact that if we look at 16th note accent, well, when we put it on the downbeat, well, every downbeat is going to be the right hand. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now every E is our left hand. 1 E, 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 E. Okay? So the minute we get to triplets, it becomes more interesting because of the odd number of strokes, every possible place we put it, the hand is going to alternate. So if we look at putting accents on the downbeats with triplets, 1, 2, 3, 4, right, left, left. Okay? So that starts to make things really interesting, and now our sticking becomes much, much more of a thing that we have to pay attention to. Okay? So so what we'll have now is an example of this is just triplet grid with accents. Okay, yeah, so here's that example. So before we move on to some other applications with that you can utilize the grid for, I figured I would put just a few of the kind of constant and variable variations that I particularly like for you to get some ideas out of. So you're going to hear 3 different variations of the grid now. The 2 of them are triplet based and 1 of them is 16th note based. So the first one is just going to be the Swiss triplet. Okay, flam on the front, sticking of right, left. Okay, and so that example is simply moving an accent through the Swiss triplets. Okay. The second example that you're going to hear is now taking flams as the variable, but keeping in triplets, but keeping an accent on the downbeat. So you're playing 1 lolly, 2 lolly, 3 lolly, 4 lolly the whole time, but you start to move a flam through that. So okay. And then finally, the third variation is a little more complex. It's 16th note based, and basically what it's doing is you're playing straight 16th. You're playing 16th notes, an accent on the downbeat the whole time. 2, 3, and a 4E, and a 1E, and a 2E, and a 3E, and a 4E, and a, okay? But the sticking now is the variable. And the sticking goes through all the possible paradiddle variations. So the first measure is right, right, left, right. So, okay. Then the second measure is right, left, left, right, left, right, right, left, right, left, left, right, left, right, right, left. Third one is paradiddles, right, left, right, right, left, right, left, left. And then the fourth one, the double of the paradiddle goes from the to the downbeat. Right, left, right, left, left, right, left, right, right, left, right, left, left, right, left, right, right. Okay? But an accent on every single downbeat. Okay? So here's a few of those variations for you to check out. So now everything that we've talked about so far has been through a constant rhythm, right? It's all been straight eighth notes, straight 16th notes, straight triplets, no variation within the rhythm. So you can take this concept of the grid or the 4-2-1, you can take this concept and you can apply it to really any rhythmic construct that you want. Okay, it doesn't have to be straight 16th notes or whatever. So a good example of this would be the herta, right? Okay, which is a contemporary rudiment, triplet based. But if you're thinking the triplets as eighth notes, the first two notes are two 16th notes, right? So, okay. So here's taking that example of just the herta, and let's simply move accents. Use an accent grid, but move that instead of through straight triplets or 16th notes, let's move an accent through the herta, right? So that's another way that you can utilize this concept of the 4-2-1 or the grid, but with in something that's not so so symmetrical, if you will, right? So here's that example. Okay, so all we've talked about with the grid has basically been here on the pad, snare drum, if you will, whatever, right? But this is a tool that, in essence, transcends instrument, right? While these examples have all been here, you can take the concept of the grid or the concept of the 4-2-1 and apply it to pretty much any other instrument that you want. So a couple of examples like that follow now, okay, where we're going to take them over and we're going to apply them to some 4 mallet playing, okay? So the first one is simply applying the 16th note accent grid, but now instead of doing it between just the right and left hand, we're now going to apply it to mallets 1, 2, 3, 4, okay? And just taking simple 16th note accent grid, but applying it to that. It's going to help us to strengthen every mallet, help us to get nice evenness to our sound. So you can do something as simple as applying that there, but then you can also take that. The second example will be what's become a pretty standard 4-mallet exercise, which would be a lot of people call broccoli, okay, which is just a permutation exercise. And so I've done a short abbreviated version of that, but we're basically taking the possible permutations for this example of ascending. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then moving from there, there's 4 of those, and then 2, 3, 4, 1, and then 3, 4, 1, 2, and then 4, 1, 2, 3. And applying them in a 4, 2, 1, doing each one of those 4 times, then doing each one of them 2 times, repeating the 2s, and then doing each of them 1 time, but doing the 1s 4 times. So here's some examples of applying the grid or the 4, 2, 1 to now some 4-mallet playing. So there you have it. There's your crash course in grid fundamentals. So hopefully you can see how powerful the grid now is, and just have gotten a taste as to how far you can go with this tool to vary it in so many ways to help your playing. I want to say thank you to the Percussive Arts Society and the PAS Education Committee for inviting me to do this session with y'all. Hopefully you've gotten something out of it. If you have any questions, feel free to email me. I'll put my email address below. Yeah, thanks so much. I hope you all have a great summer, and take care.